Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the A cargo ship New Horizon as it moved through the dark space of the Kepler trade route. The ship carried medical supplies and terraforming equipment to the outer colonies where humans were trying to build new homes on distant planets. Jake had been making this run for 3 years now and knew every asteroid and space station along the way. His crew was small but good at their jobs. Lisa Grant was the best pilot he had ever worked with and could fly the ship through anything. Carlos Rivera knew every bolt and wire in the engine room and could fix problems that would leave other engineers scratching their heads. Amy Bell handled all communications and could talk her way out of trouble with customs officials and port authorities. Across 5-star systems, the cargo hold was full of medical equipment that would save lives on the frontier worlds, vaccines for the children born on the new colonies, surgical tools for the doctors who worked in makeshift hospitals, water purification systems that would turn poisoned rivers into safe drinking water. This cargo was worth more than money to the people waiting for it. It meant the difference between life and death for thousands of settlers who had left Earth, hoping for a better future among the stars. Jake checked his instruments and saw they were making good time. In 6 hours they would reach the Centauri station, where they would refuel and pick up more supplies before heading to the outer rim. The route was considered safe by most standards, but pirates had been hitting ships in this sector for the past few months. The authorities said they were working on the problem, but so far nothing had been done to stop the attacks. Jake kept his weapon systems on standby just in case, but hoped they would not be needed. Lisa called out from the pilot station that she was picking up something on the long-range sensors. Multiple ships were approaching fast from behind the asteroid field that bordered this part of the trade route. Jake told her to get a better scan and see what they were dealing with. The ships were big and moving in formation like military vessels, but they were not broadcasting any identification signals. Amy tried to contact them on standard frequencies but got no response from the approaching ships. Carlos came up from the engine room to report that all systems were running perfectly and they had full power available if needed. Jake nodded and told everyone to stay calm but be ready for anything. The approaching ships were still too far away to identify, but their course and speed suggested they were not friendly merchants or patrol vessels. Jake had heard stories about the Zephyrian pirates who had been terrorizing this sector, but no human ship had ever survived an encounter with them to give a detailed report. The ships came around the asteroid field and Jake got his first clear look at them through the main viewer. They were like nothing he had ever seen before, with hulls that seemed to flow like liquid metal and weapons that glowed with deadly energy. The lead ship was massive with spikes and curves that made it look more like a living creature than a machine built in a shipyard. These were definitely not human vessels, and they were definitely not here to trade or offer assistance to travelers in need. Amy reported that the alien ships were scanning the New Horizon with some kind of energy beam that was probing their hull and cargo holds. Lisa said the ships were moving to surround them and cut off any escape routes back to human space. Carlos announced that the aliens were jamming their communications, so they could not call for help from the nearest patrol station. Jake realized they were being set up for a pirate attack by aliens who had probably done this hundreds of times before to other human ships. The lead alien ship opened a communication channel and a harsh voice filled the bridge, speaking in broken English mixed with clicks and hisses that sounded like no human throat could make. The voice belonged to someone who called himself Warlord Krixtal, and he demanded that the human ship surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. He said that resistance would result in the destruction of their ship and the death of everyone aboard. He gave them 60 seconds to comply with his demands or face the consequences of defying the greatest pirate fleet in this part of the galaxy. Jake looked at his crew and saw determination in their eyes instead of fear. These people had signed up to bring supplies to the colonies knowing there were risks involved in traveling through dangerous space. They were not the type to give up without a fight even when facing impossible odds against superior alien technology. Jake made his decision and told Amy to open a channel to the pirate ship. He informed Warlord Krixtal that the New Horizon would not surrender and that the aliens would have to take the ship by force if they wanted the cargo. The alien warlord laughed with a sound like grinding metal and said that humans were even more stupid than he had been told. He said his ships had destroyed dozens of human vessels, and that this one would be no different from all the others. He cut the communication channel and Jake watched as the alien ships moved into attack formation, with their weapons charging up to fire. Lisa asked for orders and Jake told her to prepare for evasive maneuvers while Carlos was instructed to bring all defensive systems online. Jake reached under his command console and activated a hidden control panel that none of his crew had ever seen before. Warning lights began flashing throughout the ship as systems that were not supposed to exist on a cargo vessel came online. The cargo bay doors opened and revealed weapon systems that had been carefully hidden behind false bulkheads and disguised as medical equipment. The New Horizon was not the helpless merchant ship it appeared to be, and Jake was not just a simple cargo captain trying to make an honest living hauling supplies to the colonies. Amy stared in shock as targeting systems appeared on her console and Carlos felt the ship's power grid shift to support weapons and shields that should not exist. Lisa watched her flight controls change as the ship's true capabilities were revealed to a crew that had been flying blind for 3 years. The New Horizon had been designed to look like easy prey while hiding the teeth of a predator beneath its innocent appearance. The alien pirates opened fire expecting to see the human ship explode or surrender, but instead found their energy beams striking shields that held firm against the assault. Jake ordered Lisa to return fire and the hidden weapons struck back at the aliens with power that matched their own advanced technology. The battle for the Kepler trade route had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The alien pirates fired their plasma cannons at the New Horizon, expecting to see the human ship break apart, like all the others they had destroyed before. Instead, their deadly energy beams struck shields that glowed bright blue and held firm against the attack. Warlord Crystal watched from his command center, as his most powerful weapons failed to penetrate the defenses of what should have been a helpless cargo vessel. This had never happened before in all his years of raiding human ships, and he could not understand how these primitive beings had developed such advanced, protective technology. The human ship began to move in ways that defied everything the Zephyrians knew about cargo vessels. Lisa Grant pushed the New Horizon through a series of rolls and turns that made it dance between the alien weapons fire, like a fighter craft instead of a heavy freighter. The ship twisted through space with grace and speed that should have been impossible for something carrying thousands of tons of medical supplies and terraforming equipment. The aliens had studied human ship designs for years and knew their limitations, but this vessel was performing far beyond those known capabilities. Carlos Rivera worked frantically in the engineering section as systems came online that he had never known existed aboard his own ship. The power grid was handling loads that should have overloaded the main reactor, but somehow everything was working perfectly. Hidden conduits carried energy to weapons and shields that had been built into the ship's structure so carefully that even he had not detected them during 3 years of maintenance work. The New Horizon had been designed by people who understood that the galaxy was a dangerous place and that appearances could be the difference between life and death. Amy Bell discovered that her communication station had capabilities she had never imagined possible. Advanced encryption systems allowed her to break into the alien communication networks and listen to their tactical discussions. She could hear the confusion and growing fear in their voices as their coordinated attack began to fall apart. The pirates were used to fighting enemies who fled or surrendered quickly, but the humans were fighting back with technology and tactics that matched their own advanced civilization. Jake Morrison stood at his command station watching the battle unfold on screens that showed information no cargo captain should have access to. Targeting computers tracked every alien ship, while tactical displays showed their weapons and movement patterns. The New Horizon was equipped with military-grade sensors that could analyze enemy technology in real time and suggest the best ways to counter their attacks. Jake had been trained for this moment during years of secret preparation that his crew had known nothing about until now. The Zephyrian fleet tried to use their superior numbers to overwhelm the single human ship by attacking from multiple directions at once. Their quantum torpedoes streaked through space toward the New Horizon, while energy beams crisscrossed the battlefield in a deadly web of destruction. But Lisa guided the ship through the attack pattern with skill that amazed even her own crewmates as she used asteroid fragments and debris to block incoming fire while keeping their own weapons pointed at the enemy vessels. Amy began feeding false information into the alien communication network using techniques she had learned during secret training sessions she could barely remember. The pirates found their own coordination systems turning against them as conflicting orders appeared on their tactical screens. Ships that should have been working together began moving in opposite directions while their weapons targeted empty space instead of the human vessel they were supposed to be destroying. The lead alien ship launched a barrage of missiles that should have ended the fight immediately, but Carlos had managed to activate point defense systems hidden throughout the New Horizons hull. Tiny laser turrets emerged from concealed ports and began shooting down the incoming projectiles with precision that spoke of advanced targeting computers and weapons designed specifically for this type of combat. The missiles exploded harmlessly in space while the human ship continued its impossible dance of survival. Warlord Crystal realized that his fleet was not just fighting a single cargo ship, but something far more dangerous than anything he had encountered in decades of piracy. The humans were using his own tactics against him while demonstrating technology that rivaled the most advanced military forces in the galaxy. His ships were taking damage from weapons that appeared to be specifically designed to counter Zephyrian armor and shielding systems. The alien commander tried to call for reinforcements, but discovered that his long-range communications were being jammed by the same human ship that was fighting off his entire attack fleet. Amy had taken control of their communication satellites and was broadcasting interference patterns that prevented any signals from reaching other pirate bases in nearby star systems. The Zephyrians were cut off from help and facing an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. Lisa executed a maneuver that brought the New Horizon directly between two alien ships just as they fired their main weapons at each other instead of at their intended target. The pirates watched in horror as their own energy beams struck friendly vessels, while the human ship slipped away unharmed. This level of tactical awareness and precision flying suggested that the humans had been studying Zephyrian combat methods for years and had developed specific countermeasures for every known pirate tactic. Carlos reported that all systems were operating at peak efficiency despite the massive power demands of the hidden weapons and defensive systems. The ship's reactor was producing energy levels that should have been impossible for a civilian vessel, but everything had been designed to work together in perfect harmony. The New Horizon was not just disguised as a cargo ship, but had been built from the ground up to fool enemies while hiding capabilities that matched or exceeded military standards. The battle continued as more alien ships joined the attack, but the humans seemed to grow stronger with each passing minute. Every weapon fired by the pirates was countered by defensive measures they had not known existed, while return fire from the New Horizon struck with accuracy that suggested advanced targeting systems guided by artificial intelligence. The Zephyrians began to understand that they were not fighting a lucky merchant crew, but trained warriors who had been waiting for this exact confrontation. Jake watched his crew work with efficiency born of secret training and preparation that had taken years to complete. They were not just civilians caught in a pirate attack, but soldiers who had been carefully placed aboard disguised vessels to wait for opportunities exactly like this one. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined, and that the age of easy raids on human shipping was coming to an end. The space around the battle suddenly filled with new contacts as more human ships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation around the alien pirate fleet. These were not cargo vessels like the New Horizon, but military cruisers with hulls designed for war and weapons that had been built to destroy enemies of humanity. The lead ship identified itself as the Steel Wind, under the command of Commander Ben Hayes, while two other vessels took flanking positions to cut off any escape routes the pirates might try to use. Warlord Crixtal watched his tactical display with growing horror as he realized his fleet was now surrounded by human warships that had appeared from nowhere. The second ship was the Iron Wolf, commanded by Captain Dana Torres, and its weapons were already locking onto Zephyrian vessels, while its shields powered up to maximum strength. The third human ship was the heavy destroyer Thunderstrike, led by Captain Nick Sullivan, and it carried enough firepower to destroy half the pirate fleet by itself. Amy Bell received a communication from Commander Hayes explaining that the human ships had been tracking the Zephyrian fleet for months, using hidden beacons placed on cargo stolen from previous raids. Every successful pirate attack had actually been monitored by human intelligence services who were gathering information about alien tactics and technology. The pirates thought they had been hunting helpless merchants, but they had actually been led into a carefully planned trap that would end their reign of terror forever. The alien commander began to understand the terrible truth about what had been happening during the past year of raids on human shipping. The humans had been deliberately sacrificing smaller ships and crews to study Zephyrian methods and learn how to counter their advanced technology. Every attack had provided Earth's military with more intelligence about pirate weapons and defensive systems, while the aliens believed they were dealing with weak and disorganized prey. Jake Morrison listened as Commander Hayes explained the full scope of the operation through encrypted channels that the aliens could not intercept. The New Horizon had been sent along this route specifically to attract pirate attention, while hidden sensors recorded everything about the alien attack methods. Dozens of similar operations had been conducted across human space to gather the information needed to plan this decisive engagement that would eliminate the Zephyrian threat once and for all. Lisa Grant realized that her exceptional flying skills had not been discovered by accident when she was recruited for the cargo ship assignment. She had been carefully selected for this mission because of her ability to pilot vessels under extreme combat conditions, while making the performance look like lucky survival instead of trained expertise. Her role had been to keep the New Horizon alive long enough for the trap to be sprung around the unsuspecting pirates. The Steel Wind opened fire with weapons that struck the nearest Zephyrian vessel, with devastating force that tore through alien armor like it was made of paper instead of advanced metals. The pirate ship exploded in a brilliant flash that lit up the battlefield while debris scattered in all directions. Commander Hayes had spent years studying the weaknesses in Zephyrian technology, and his weapons were specifically designed to exploit every flaw the aliens had tried to hide. Carlos Rivera watched his engineering displays as the human fleet demonstrated coordination that terrified the alien pirates who were used to fighting disorganized merchants and poorly equipped patrol vessels. Every move by the human ships was calculated to maximum effect, while their defensive systems absorbed enemy fire with efficiency that spoke of years of preparation and technological development focused on this single objective. Captain Dana Torres led the Iron Wolf in a direct assault on the pirate formation that broke their defensive line and scattered their ships across the battlefield. Her tactical knowledge of Zephyrian combat methods allowed her to predict their movements and counter every attempt they made to regroup and mount an effective resistance. The aliens found themselves outmaneuvered by beings they had considered primitive savages only minutes before. The Thunderstrike demonstrated the true power of human military technology as Captain Nick Sullivan unleashed a barrage of missiles and energy beams that destroyed 3 pirate vessels in rapid succession. The heavy destroyer moved through space with grace that belied its massive size, while its weapons reached out to touch alien ships with death that came faster than their defensive systems could respond. Amy Bell coordinated communications between the human ships while continuing to disrupt alien command and control systems that were falling apart under the combined assault. The pirates were losing their ability to fight as a coordinated fleet, while individual ships found themselves isolated and facing multiple human opponents who had studied their weaknesses for months in preparation for this moment. Warlord Crickstall tried desperately to rally his scattered forces, but discovered that his communications were being jammed by the same systems that had been monitoring his fleet for so long. The humans were not just fighting with superior tactics and technology, but were using the pirates' own methods against them while demonstrating capabilities that exceeded anything the aliens had believed possible from such a young species. The battle became a systematic destruction of Zephyrian ships as the human fleet moved with precision that spoke of extensive training and preparation. Every alien vessel that tried to escape found its path blocked by human ships that had anticipated the movement and positioned themselves to intercept. The pirates were being herded into positions where they could be destroyed with minimum risk to the attacking forces. Commander Hayes broadcast a message to the surviving alien ships, offering them one chance to surrender before the human fleet completed its mission of total annihilation. The pirates had 30 seconds to power down their weapons and prepare to be boarded, or they would be destroyed where they sat. Most of the remaining Zephyrian vessels immediately complied with the demand rather than face certain death at the hands of an enemy they no longer understood. Jake Morrison realized that his 3 years of routine cargo runs had been part of a much larger plan that involved hundreds of human ships and thousands of personnel working toward this single moment of victory. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity did not just defend itself against threats, but actively hunted down enemies and eliminated them with ruthless efficiency that left no room for mercy or second chances. The trap had been sprung perfectly, and the most dangerous pirate fleet in this sector of space was about to become nothing more than debris floating in the void between the stars. The age of Zephyrian dominance was ending, and the age of human expansion was about to begin with a clear message to anyone who might threaten the children of Earth. The tide of battle turned completely against the Zephyrian pirates as human ships closed in from all directions with weapons firing and Marines preparing to board the alien vessels. Captain Dana Torres led the assault on Warlord Krixtal's flagship called the Void Reaper, while her boarding craft attached themselves to the hull like metal insects, seeking to penetrate the armor of their prey. The alien ship was massive and heavily armed, but it could not defend itself against enemies, who were already inside its protective barriers. Lieutenant Sam Brooks led his squad of Marines through the airlocks and into the corridors of the alien ship, where they moved with speed and efficiency that shocked the Zephyrian defenders. The humans adapted to the strange architecture within minutes, while the aliens struggled to understand how these beings could learn so quickly. Every defensive measure the pirates had installed was countered by human tactics that seemed to evolve in real time as the soldiers encountered new challenges. The Zephyrians had always prided themselves on being the greatest warriors in this part of the galaxy, but they found themselves outmatched by humans who fought with a ferocity that bordered on madness. The alien defenders watched in horror as human Marines continued advancing, even when wounded by weapons that should have killed them instantly. These beings seemed to view death as just another obstacle to be overcome rather than something to be feared and avoided. Dr. Kate Palmer moved through the battlefield, treating wounded Marines with supplies she carried in a portable medical kit while enemy fire struck the walls around her. The injured soldiers received basic treatment without anesthetic or pain relief, but continued fighting as if nothing had happened to them. The Zephyrians could not understand how these creatures could function with injuries that would incapacitate most intelligent species. Sam Brooks encountered a group of alien warriors in the ship's main corridor and engaged them in close combat using weapons and tactics he had learned during years of training for exactly this type of mission. The Zephyrians were larger and stronger than humans, but they discovered that size meant nothing against opponents who refused to acknowledge defeat. The Marines fought with a determination that came from knowing their mission was more important than their individual survival. The alien defenders tried to use their knowledge of the ship's layout to trap the human invaders, but Carlos Rivera had already hacked into the Void Reaper's computer systems from his position aboard the New Horizon. The ship's own navigation systems began providing false information to the Zephyrian crew, while the environmental controls started working against them. Corridors that should have led to safety instead guided the aliens into ambushes prepared by human Marines who had been given accurate maps of the vessel. Captain Nick Sullivan brought the Thunderstrike alongside the flagship and began cutting through the hull with precision tools that opened the alien ship like a metal flower blooming in space. His crew poured into the breach wearing armor that protected them from the hostile atmosphere, while their weapons struck down any Zephyrian who tried to resist their advance. The humans moved through the ship with purpose that spoke of extensive training and preparation for this exact scenario. Warlord Krixtal retreated deeper into his ship as human forces advanced through every level and section with unstoppable momentum. His elite guards fell back, fighting desperately against invaders who seemed to absorb damage that should have stopped them cold. The alien commander began to realize that he was not fighting ordinary soldiers but members of a species that had been forged by countless wars on their homeworld into the perfect killing machines. Dr. Palmer reached the ship's medical bay, where she found alien wounded being treated by their own doctors who stared at her in amazement as she worked on human casualties. The Zephyrian physicians could not believe that humans could survive injuries that would kill their own people, while the human medic demonstrated techniques that seemed impossible without advanced surgical equipment. She used basic tools to perform operations that required precision beyond anything the aliens had ever witnessed. The human Marines discovered that the Zephyrians had been torturing prisoners taken from previous raids, and the discovery changed the nature of the assault from military operation to personal mission of vengeance. Sam Brooks found cells containing human captives who had been subjected to experiments designed to learn about human physiology and psychology. The knowledge that their own people had suffered at alien hands transformed the Marines from professional soldiers into instruments of righteous fury. Carlos Rivera took complete control of the flagship's computer systems and began turning every automated system against the Zephyrian crew while opening doors for human forces and sealing off escape routes that might allow important prisoners to avoid capture. The ship's own defenses became weapons in human hands as security turrets began firing on alien personnel while life support systems created zones of safety. For the advancing Marines, Captain Torres reached the command center where she found Warlord Crixtal surrounded by the wreckage of his once mighty fleet. Visible through the main viewing screen, the alien commander was wounded but still defiant as he faced the human officer who had destroyed everything he had built during decades of successful piracy. She offered him the chance to surrender and provide information about other pirate bases in exchange for his life. The Zephyrian warlord looked into human eyes that promised death for any resistance and realized that these beings did not just fight to win battles, but to completely eliminate threats to their species. The humans had not come here to capture prisoners or steal cargo but to send a message to every potential enemy in the galaxy that attacking humanity carried consequences that extended far beyond simple military defeat. Sam Brooks reported that the ship was secure and all alien resistance had been eliminated or captured, while human casualties were surprisingly light. Considering the intensity of the fighting, the Marines had accomplished their mission with efficiency that spoke of superior training and equipment but also of a fundamental difference in how humans approached warfare compared to other species in the galaxy. Captain Nick Sullivan coordinated the final phase of the operation as human ships secured the remaining Zephyrian vessels and began processing prisoners who would provide intelligence about other pirate operations throughout this sector of space. The humans had not just won a single battle, but had positioned themselves to eliminate the entire network of criminal organizations that had threatened peaceful commerce for generations. Warlord Crixtal lay dying on the deck of his command center, surrounded by the wreckage of control panels and displays that had once shown him ruling over the most feared pirate fleet in this sector of the galaxy. His wounds were fatal, and the alien blood that flowed from his body was the same color as the emergency lighting that bathed the ruined bridge in crimson shadows. The other Zephyrian captains were either dead or captured, while their ships drifted powerless in space, with human Marines aboard to ensure no further resistance. Captain Jake Morrison stood over the fallen alien commander, no longer wearing the mask of a simple cargo ship captain that had fooled the pirates into thinking they were attacking helpless prey. His uniform now displayed the insignia of Earth military intelligence, and his bearing showed the confidence of someone who had been trained for years to execute exactly this type of operation. The New Horizon had been just one piece in a vast puzzle designed to eliminate the Zephyrian threat forever. 3 centuries of pirate dominance in the Kepler trade route had ended in a single engagement that lasted less than 4 hours from first contact to final surrender. The alien raiders who had terrorized merchant shipping across dozens of star systems were now nothing more than prisoners awaiting transport to detention facilities where they would provide information about other criminal organizations operating in human space and beyond. Crixtal looked up at the human officer with eyes that were growing dim as life ebbed away from his massive frame and tried to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. His fleet had attacked what appeared to be a single defenseless cargo vessel carrying medical supplies to frontier colonies, but instead found themselves facing an enemy that had been waiting for them with weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter every advantage the Zephyrians possessed. The dying warlord realized that everything about the humans had been carefully crafted deception, from their apparent weakness to their scattered defensive positions that seemed to offer easy targets for pirate raids. The aliens had believed they were predators hunting helpless prey, but the truth was exactly the opposite. The humans had been the hunters all along, while the pirates were merely animals being led to slaughter. Jake Morrison listened as the alien commander used his final breaths to speak, words that would be recorded and transmitted to every human base and colony in this part of the galaxy. The message would also be shared with other species who needed to understand that humanity was not the weak and disorganized collection of merchants and farmers that it appeared to be on the surface. Krikstal spoke slowly as his strength faded, but his words carried clearly through the command center where human soldiers stood guard over their defeated enemies. He said that the Zephyrians had never stood a chance against the humans because these beings did not just fight wars, but engineered them from beginning to end. The aliens had been turned into weapons against themselves while believing they were winning victory after victory against inferior opponents. The warlord continued speaking as his voice grew weaker, but his message became more urgent as he realized the importance of what he needed to communicate to anyone who might listen. The humans had used Zephyrian strength as a weakness, and had turned their confidence into blindness that prevented them from seeing the trap that was closing around them. The pirates had thought they were the predators, but the humans had made them into prey without them ever realizing what was happening. Amy Bell recorded every word the dying alien spoke while her equipment transmitted the confession to Earth Command and to monitoring stations throughout human space where intelligence analysts would study the information for clues about other threats that might be developing in unknown regions of the galaxy. The aliens had provided valuable insights into their own methods and those of their allies during years of raids they thought were successful. Commander Ben Hayes received reports from all human ships in the fleet, confirming that the operation had achieved complete success with minimal casualties and maximum intelligence gathering about alien technology and tactics. The Kepler trade route was now secure for human shipping, while the destruction of the Zephyrian fleet would serve as a warning to other criminal organizations that might consider targeting Earth's merchant vessels. The surviving aliens would be interrogated by specialists who had been trained to extract information about pirate bases and supply networks that extended across multiple star systems, where other species had been suffering under the same threats that humans had now eliminated. The prisoners would provide maps and codes that would allow Earth's military to strike at the heart of organized crime in this entire region of space. Lisa Grant piloted the New Horizon away from the battlefield, while cargo ships from the human fleet began collecting salvage and evidence that would be studied by engineers and scientists who wanted to understand how alien technology could be adapted for human use. The medical supplies that had started this journey were still aboard and would be delivered to the colonies as planned, but now they would travel under the protection of patrol ships that no pirate would dare to challenge. Carlos Rivera worked to restore the ship's normal configuration by hiding the military systems that had been revealed during the battle while making sure that other disguised vessels would be ready for similar operations in different parts of human space. The galaxy was full of threats that needed to be eliminated, and humanity was prepared to hunt them down one by one until peaceful commerce could flourish without fear of attack. Captain Nick Sullivan filed his final report with Earth Command, describing how the Thunderstrike and its sister ships had performed during the engagement while recommending improvements that could be made to tactics and equipment based on lessons learned from this first major test of human military capabilities against alien forces. The success of the operation would lead to expanded defensive measures throughout the frontier regions. Dr. Kate Palmer treated the few human casualties from the boarding actions while examining alien prisoners to learn about their physiology and medical requirements during the long journey to detention facilities where they would spend the rest of their lives paying for the crimes they had committed against innocent travelers and colonists throughout this sector of space. Amy Bell sent the final message to Earth Command reporting that mission objectives had been achieved and that humanity's reputation in this sector was now properly established among both allies and potential enemies who needed to understand the consequences of threatening human interests. The age of easy raids on Earth's children was over, and the galaxy would learn to respect the species that had conquered its own planet through endless conflict and brought those same skills to the cosmic stage, where new challenges waited to be overcome.